Hi, what's up, guys? Constantine here. So, last week we did the top 10 physical pains that you will experience on a through hike. So, this week we kind of wanted to stay on that same deal, same train of thought, and do the top 10 mental pains. And when we say pains, it's not an actually painful experience in your mind. I mean, sometimes some of these might become tough. I don't know if pain is the right word, but that was kind of the word that we thought, and they kind of tie into each other. So we were way more excited about this one than the top 10 physical because the physical pains, I mean, a lot of people are going to assume a lot of these, but the top 10 mental pains, unless you've been out there, you've done it for months at a time, you might not think of these as much. So number one might come as a surprise to a lot of you. Number one is monotony. And monotony, you don't really experience it a lot the first week, first 2 weeks, first 3 weeks, first 4 weeks, first month or two. But if you're doing a multiple month long distance hike, around the second or third month, some miles just might feel monotonous to you. There's been times that we've been hiking down a dirt road and we're like, it's different scenery, but it becomes the same kind of repetitive motion. And every day's new on a through hike, but that still doesn't trick your mind into seeing all of that newness because you're still doing the same activity. So you actually do fight with monotony a lot of times on a through hike. It's not just all wow factor. It's not just all this is beautiful. There are going to be long stretches, small, medium, long stretches that you are going to fight with monotony. And you're going to have to find out. You can go to a place in your mind to avoid that. You can start, it's just changing the brain process and changing how you think about that trail. Monotony is actually something that a lot of hikers fight with, and that is why it comes in at number one. Number two, mental pain on a through hike. This is not going to come to a surprise to many. It's craving food. Your mind, it's going to go through all these different thought processes while you're out there, but there's a consistency out there too. You will always, 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 always be thinking about food. You could have just eaten food and you're still thinking about food. So your mind starts playing tricks on you. You're like, oh, I'm going to eat all this once I get to town. I'm going to eat all this once I get to camp. And you just always have a baseline subconscious thought about food. So whenever you see another hiker, they're like, hey, are you really craving a burrito right now? That little opening of a conversation can turn into a 2 hour long conversation. So craving food will always be on your mind. And third mental pain on a through hike is balance. And this ties into the first two. And this is balance of music and balance of podcasts. We know many strong hikers that don't do any music or any podcasts. We know many strong hikers that do purely music and podcasts. And then we know a lot of in between. And it's personal preference. But for us, we found sometimes this ties into the first one, monotony. Sometimes you have to tell your brain to be like, don't pop in the headphones. Even though this is a dirt road walk or a road walk, you're still out here and this is what you're out here for. So that's not to say it's bad. That's not to say music and podcasts aren't bad. Sometimes it amplifies the experience. It's just in our personal preference, we have to find ourselves sometimes telling ourselves, hey, don't do this right now. Enjoy the trail for what it is. And that's all about balance. So finding that balance is very, very important on a through hike. And that's part of the pain or struggle mentally that you will go through. So number four, this is a big one. It is missing friends and family. So when you're on a through hike, however long that is, if it's a month long, a 2 month long, 3 month long, 4 month long, 5 and 6 month long, on that journey, you are in a different environment, different state, different country. You're not going to have your friends and family along unless you hiked with your friends and family. We don't see that as prevalent as you might think. So a lot of the time you are going to be missing your friends and family, and you might be able to shoot out some texts in town. You might be able to make some calls in town, but it grows while you're out on trail. So like you still miss them, but it's something that grows while you're out there longer and you get more and more into the trail culture, more and more into the trail community and the trail family. You're still going to miss them, but it's a different situation you've put yourself in, and you just have to learn how to kind of go with the flow and take the moments when they come to you that you can to communicate and be able to feel a part of what's going on in their lives as they want to feel a part of what's going on in your life. So that is number four. Number five, this is a two-part one, kind of two-part one. So number five is mental exhaustion coupled with physical exhaustion. It still falls in our mental list because they go hand in hand, but sometimes the mental exhaustion can outweigh the physical exhaustion heavily. I mean, we've had many times on trail that our body was in peak physical condition. We've been doing 30 miles every day. Like, we know our body can handle it, but one day we might wake up and we're just really mentally exhausted. We are exhausted having to pack up camp in the freezing cold and knowing that we have to do 30 miles. And on those days, you have to give yourself balance again. At least for us, we found if those days we say, hey, you know what? We're mentally tired right now. We're going to do 20 to 25-mile days just today and kind of sit back into our pace, let ourselves have more breaks. This is a scenario where when you're on multiple month-long through hikes that it's a necessity. You got to give yourself some mental breaks, because looking down the barrel in a pipeline of 3,000 miles and having to do high miles every day, it's going to wear on you. Even if you're not thinking about it all the time, subconsciously it's going to be in your thought process, and it's just going to be chewing away at that mental strength that you have to have for so long out there. So mental exhaustion sometimes really funnels into the physical exhaustion. If you're mentally exhausted, it'll start tricking your body into that your muscles are tired. And there's a difference. You can tell there's a difference when your muscles are just physically tired and when that mental exhaustion plays a part in that. So you got to find the balance there as well, and just give yourself the time you need, and the mental game picks up as you go. I mean, so you have to give yourself time to find and keep finding each day that mental fortitude. So that's why that is number 5. So number 6 on the mental pains of a through hike. This ties into number 5, the mental exhaustion. This is the concept of NERO days never actually being NERO days. So what a NERO day is it's a near 0-mile day on trail where you give your mind and a body a break. But you have to think on a through hike that when you're going into town, you have a lot of chores in order. If you're working remotely, you have to do all of that work once you get into town. If you're editing videos, you have to do all the editing of videos in town. You have to do laundry, you have to do resupply, you have to do gear tweaks. You have to be moving almost the consistent time of town. And if that NERO day picks up into a higher mile day, 10 to 15, and you get in there at 1 o'clock, you will blink your eyes and the town day will have been completely gone, and you have been running around doing stuff the entire day. So there will be no mental break or physical breaks. So finding that balance in NERO days, you have to make sure that you give your mental and physical body a break in town. Number 7, it is breaking through physical uncomfortability. What this means is you are going to be physically uncomfortable on a through hike. That's just what's going to happen. You're going to be thirsty, dehydrated, you're going to be sunburnt, you're going to have chafe, you're going to have foot problems. You watched the last video, you know what I'm talking about. There are going to be physical pains, and to get above and beyond these physical pains, sometimes you do have to cater to that body part and take a break. But other times it's mostly up here. It's mostly in your head that you have to structure your thoughts and your mental energy to be like, okay, this is going to be a consistent uncomfortableness. I'm going to have to find a way to push through that. And finding those ways, it's all up to your personal preference. You can find thought processes that you can go down. You can really get philosophical out there and think of the big questions in life, or you can just hike and it will come to you as you hike. So, or you can think about food. That's another big one. But yeah, so physical uncomfortability, you have to find the mental energy to get through that, because if you get stuck in that rut of thinking, oh, this is just so uncomfortable, this is not going to get better, it can lead down a dark path. So you have to structure your mind and your thought energy to be able to see the brighter side, that you will get through that pain, you will get through that physical uncomfortableness. And sometimes it might not be you're going to get through it in the hour. It might be a week long that you have this uncomfort. It might be a month long. It's going to be a long time sometimes, but you will get through it eventually. And you have to find the moments inside of it too, that you're not just stuck in your own mind thinking about how uncomfortable it is. You have to still find those moments that it is beautiful and you see that beauty for what it is. That is why that's number 7. Number 8, we had to put this on there because it messes with us so much, is getting out of the sleeping bag. Oh, by far the hardest part of any day, especially if you're coming off of 30-40 mile days consistently, or if you're coming off of 20-mile days in a very hard section. when you get out of that sleeping bag in the morning, if you have to wake up at 4, if you have to wake up at 5, if you have to wake up at 6, 7, whatever time it is, you're going to wake up sore, you're going to wake up comfortable. Well, somewhat comfortable, not fully comfortable. You're going to wake up comfortable enough that you want to stay in that sleeping bag. You might not want to hike that day, but the trail's awaiting you, the miles awaiting you, the weather window might be closing down. You have to get out of that sleeping bag. And that's why it's number 8, because there's so many mornings that we've been so tired, so broken down. And the hardest part of the day was getting out of the sleeping bag. Once we started hiking, within 5 minutes that we had packed up all our stuff and started going, it got way more comfortable and it got way more enjoyable. But just that instance of popping those legs out and getting into that moment and that momentum, that's when it really started getting to the point of, whew, this is taking a lot. So that is why that is number 8. Number 9, it's going to be a weight upon your mind a lot on trail, unless you're filthy rich. Budgeting and mental arithmetic when you are deeper and deeper into the trail systems. So the first month, you kind of are getting the feel for it. The first kind of towns, you're getting the feel for it. You're seeing what you're spending on lodging, what you're spending on food, what you're spending on resupply, and you're trying to tighten that down, and you're always balancing budgets in your head pretty much. I mean, at least us personally, when we're hiking in between towns, we'll think, how much did we spend last town? How much do we want to spend this upcoming town? And we'll try to balance being like, well, we'll go out to eat this meal, we'll resupply here, we're going to split lodging with 4 or 5 people. So you're always kind of balancing budget, even when you're not in your bank account or looking at your credit card statement. You're still having that thought, because you have to be out there so consistently that you're out there 4, 5, 6 months. You have to make the money last. So when you're balancing your budget, it's not just in towns, and you got to find the break in your mental game where you can pull yourself out of that and just find the enjoyment in it, because it will work out. You just still have to be hyper focused on what you want to spend your time and your money on. So that is why that is number 9. Number 10, this one could kind of go anywhere within the trail list. It's not number 10 because it's the least. That's calculating while you're on trail, miles, water, and food. And what that means is when you're hiking, a lot of the times people think, oh, what do you think about? What do you do? And a lot of the time when you're hiking, you're thinking about hiking. You're thinking about, okay, how much food do I have in my pack? How much more miles do I have to go for this section? How much more miles do I go until I can stop and take a break? And do I have enough food to have a snack at this break? And then it goes into water. Can I take a break here, or is the sun coming up? Is the heat of the day going to start? Do I need to get to that water source to re-up on water? Can I have a sip now? Can I have a sip later? I have to ration my water, or I can chug my water. I'm going to be at the water source in half a mile. And those calculations start to kind of take on a subconscious role in your mind as well, because you're always thinking about the balance in there as well. The miles tie into the food. The food ties into the miles. The water ties into all of it. Water's the most important. We can go without food. We can push high miles without food. But without water, our body starts to shut down. I mean, it's common sense. Without water, you're like a rusty tin man. It's not going to work well. So it takes mental energy. You'll think about, well, the terrain is going to start getting a little harder. I might have to ration more water here. I might have to ration more food. And that's why it's kind of a consistent mental pull as well. And that's why it comes in at number 10. Number 11, we remembered to do it this time. The surprise number 11, because 11 skies, baby. But number 11, this is on-trail thoughts that worry about off-trail. Not a good place to go. So on-trail thoughts, you sometimes might have these thoughts that bring about off-trail stress. So living life is hard. Life is hard, people. You all know this. No matter what you do. When you're hiking, it can be hard. When you're off-trail, it can be hard. No matter what you do, life is life. You're going to come into stressful situations, stressful moments. Simply, it's hard. We can't say much more about that, but we could say way more about that. But you start sometimes feeling these thoughts creep in, and you're thinking about, what am I going to do when I get off trail? What kind of work am I going to do? Can I go back to my job? Is my budget going to be enough to be able to do this? Will I be able to do trail next year? Can I do right while on trail now to set myself up well for off trail? When I'm off trail, what can I do well to set myself up for on trail? do I have enough time to do these things off trail that I want to do before hiking season starts again? A lot of thoughts can creep in about time and if you're going to have enough time off trail. And it's something that we didn't really think about it a lot back in 2016, 2017, but as hiking became more of a part of our life and like ingrained in what we do, off trail and on trail really have become the same thing for us. So sometimes we have to purposely push those minds out of our head and saying, hey, we're on trail right now. We're doing everything we can, and that will set us up for the off trail season. Off trail season will set us up for on trail. So make sure you don't get too grabbed in that thought process. And as always, guys, really appreciate you watching this stuff. I've been having a lot of fun doing these types of videos. I didn't really think when I started these videos, because all my videos have been purely documenting through hikes, how much fun I would have. But it gets me to thinking a lot about trail and a lot about the stuff that goes into it and how much goes into it. So I'm having a great time doing it. So thank you guys for watching. And as always, if you really like this content, we would love to hear from you with a like, comment, or subscribe below. And if you really love this content and want to see behind the scenes what goes into the off season with us, because off season, on season, they're all one thing, you can go over to our Patreon page and check it out, and you'll see some behind the scenes footage. You'll see what goes into building up to next year, 2021, which is going to be by far our biggest year, 8,000 miles about on different trail systems, all through hikes, and we're really looking forward to it. So if you want to see that stuff, head on over there. And if you want to check out the gear we've been making and the content we've been putting out with our company, you can always go on over to 11skies.com, and we would love for you to check the stuff out there. We're making stuff for hikers, making stuff for through hikers, backpackers, outdoors people. If you're in the outdoors, our gear will work for you. We've put in a lot of time and a lot of effort making sure that it holds a quality that we are happy and proud to provide. So check that on out. And as always, guys, really appreciate following along the journey. Cool. Peace.